everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Be That Lawyer with Fretzin podcast. I'm thrilled that you're here. Again, if you're a longtime listener, keep going. We got 2 shows a week every single week, and we're going to continue to bring on amazing guests for you to enjoy and learn from and be someone that is, really taking their career to the next level. If you're new to the show, you're going to enjoy it. It's quite a ride. We're going to have some laughs and fun. Right, John?
That's absolutely right.
Yeah, I think
Happy
every time
to
we
be
get
here,
together,
Steve.
yeah, man, absolutely. I'm happy to have you back. And I know every time we get together, we have engaging, fun, exciting, interesting conversations. And today will be no different, unless you blow it. I mean, if you blow it, then maybe not. But that's not your thing.
You don't really. I'm sorry, but
apology.
I'll rise to the occasion.
You will rise. I know you will. You're the master, guys. We love to start off with a quote of the show. Normally I say the quote, but John's is actually unique to John. So I'm going to let him say the quote and then we'll discuss it for a moment and then we'll move on. But you shared it with me a few minutes ago and I thought it was great. So lay it on us.
This is something that I passionately believe. If you're active and participate in bar associations, it will enhance your career. It will enrich your life. And the contributions you make will better our legal profession. And I truly believe that.
Yeah.
It's been my experience for almost 40 years that, I am, as you well know, president-elect. I'll be installed on June 27th, 2024 as president of the Chicago Bar Association.
Yeah.
And all of those things are true. And thank you. And I just encourage people to get active, get involved, establish relationships, make friends in the practice. That is my tagline.
Before we go deep into your background and into this conversation, I mean, let's just take a moment to why would someone who's unsuccessful being involved in a bar, what would be the reasons that someone wouldn't get those attributes you just mentioned? What would they have to do or not do to be unsuccessful?
I really feel that if you're unsuccessful, it's because you're not involved.
Okay.
I think if you become involved, immerse yourself, participate, meet people, nothing but good is going to come about it. It's really been a game changer for me in my life, in my career, the people I've met, the relationships I've established, the friends I've made. I mean, I think it's really the recipe for success. And I also think it's, really effective for business development.
We're gonna have to come back to that one. But I think what you're saying is it's, like most things in life, it's what you put in is what you get out.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think as much as I've put in, I think I've gotten way more out of it than what I've put in. And I put in a ton.
Yeah.
So, it's a lot of time. It's true, but I think it's well worthwhile.
Yeah.
Take us back. I think it all comes back.
But speaking of taking us back, let's take us back and give a little insight on your background, John. John Sciaccotta, by the way, is a senior equity partner at Ehrenberg Golgan here in Chicago. It's one of I think Chicago's oldest law firms. Most, you guys have been around for 120 plus years. And also, by the way, the first law firm I ever worked with, and I don't know if I shared that. If anyone knew that at the time,
I didn't realize that.
I didn't make that as my selling point, by the way, when I was meeting with your firm. By the way, you'll be my first firm. Like I played it off like I had worked with law firms forever. But the reality is that what I was presenting was exactly what your firm needed at the time, and it was a good fit. But ultimately, it led me to working with a lot more firms. You have to start somewhere, right, John?
Well, I didn't know that, but I feel really honored. Our firm is actually the 3rd oldest law firm in Chicago.
There you go.
We were started in 1892, and we've continuously operated since then. And it's really one of the old world, last Chicago real partnerships, law partnerships.
Yeah.
A lot of Chicago firms have been merged with national firms or regional firms, and we're still where we are, I think, really doing good work and really contributing outside of our clients in the community, in the bar associations. One of my other partners, Karen Mills, is going to be president of the DuPage County Bar Association here in Illinois. So it's really a commitment to giving back and helping the next generation. That's what we're about.
And give us a little background, not only on your legal expertise and kind of what areas you serve, but then also give us your background on why business development was important, how you got started in it, and kind of give us that, because everybody, just so you know, John is one of the top rainmakers I know in Chicago. He's been hustling and like crazy for years and years, and ever since I met him. And give us that background, because I think that's important to the conversation we're going to have today.
Well, one of the things that I feel like I'm sort of rare in this regard, I wanted to be a lawyer since I was 5 years old. Okay. I went to traffic court here in Chicago with my grandfather who raised me. I looked at everything. I saw the lawyers, the judges. Right there at 5 years old, 57 years ago, I decided I wanted to be a lawyer. I didn't have anyone in my family that went to college. I was the first one, let alone the first lawyer. And I really started at ground zero. And what I was really lucky is that I had a mentor who was very involved at the Chicago Bar Association. And he told me when I was in law school to get active in this bar association. And he also always told me, if he told me once, he told me 100 times, make friends in the practice and establish relationships. He also told me wherever I spent money, to give them a business card. Okay? Wherever you had a relationship, to give them your business card, tell them what you do, tell them if they have a legal issue that comes up, to think of you first. And that's what I've done my entire career. I've connected with people. He was also very gifted in terms of connecting with people, having empathy in terms of their circumstances, and make them like you. If somebody likes you, they're going to trust you. And if they trust you and believe that you're a good lawyer, good things will happen. He also told me that every year your business will double after your second year in the practice. And he was absolutely right. It went from 60 to 120 to 240. And he was right for me. And it was a lot of work, being involved not only in the bar associations, but in not-for-profit boards, in the community, networks among my schooling and my fraternity brothers in college, and just wherever you know someone, try to connect with them and let them know what you do. And I can't stress it enough. I think making friends in the practice and establishing relationships really is the secret sauce. Yeah. As far as I'm concerned, it's worked for me. And I started at ground zero.
And John, I think it's the beginning. I mean, if you can't build trust and relationships and don't have the likability, then where do you go from there? I mean, your clients aren't going to like you. Your friends aren't. I mean, you're not going to be getting anywhere. But if you're working at that, and then what would lawyers be doing that would stop them from being successful business development? What are things is it just hiding behind their desk? Like what are the things that don't allow for that cultivation to occur?
My mentor always said that everything good about business development starts after 5 o'clock. Okay. And at first I was like, I didn't really understand that, but you've got to be out. You've got to let people know what you're doing. You can do that by, speaking, writing, participating in bar associations, getting involved in not-for-profit organizations that you have a passion for. It's all about relationships. How do you establish them? How do you create them? How do you nurture them? How do you execute upon them? In today's world, we didn't have social media. I think social media is the greatest connector and relationship builder there is, with LinkedIn and with Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, you can be in front of people more often than in the old days where we had to pick up the phone or meet with somebody. And that's why the Bar Association was so effective, because you'd go there and there would be all lawyers there, right? And they would talk about a case and, they have this one matter that they don't handle. Do you handle? And that was something that allowed you to be in the mix. Okay. And today it's a lot different. You can be in the mix virtually. You can touch people virtually.
Yeah.
I have a saying at our firm that you want to have significant touches. You want to have at least 1 or 2 a day. What is a significant touch? Well, it could be an email or a text or a video call or a phone call. But it's touching those potential clients, those referral sources, those fellow lawyers and business people that are in contact with the public. It could potentially refer you matters. That's sort of the mindset.
But let me go back to what you said though, John, because the advice that was given to your mentor, and I'm not going to say how many years ago that was, but it was great advice, I think, at the time. And if you said to me, Steve, the only way to be successful is, happening after 5 o'clock, I'd say, well, I'm not going to be very successful, because after 5 o'clock, I'm shut down. My brain is shut down for the most part. So I think but the other thing that you just said, which is so smart and right on, is that you have LinkedIn, you have Facebook, you have all these Zoom, you have all these technologies that are allowing you to get access and allowing you to network and meet new people and develop relationships all day, weekends, evenings. It doesn't matter. It's whatever time makes sense for you. You can get involved and do things. Yes, you still have, now there's breakfasts and lunches and things too you can do during the day versus having to have cocktails every night or go out and play a 5-6 hour round of golf or whatever it takes to, the old kind of that older kind of 70s, 80s, kind of mentality of glad handing. That's not for most people today. And that's not what is necessary, I think, today.
I agree with you. I think today, there was a time when I was a younger lawyer, I would have breakfasts, lunches, and dinners all lined up the week. Yeah. Okay. Now you can effectively touch people, in a significant way by using technology. It's much easier. I mean, you can be on a Zoom call, whatever time of the day, and be effective. But the key is what is your messaging? What is your messaging to these people? You have to tell them what you do and what you do and what your firm does and what you do and what the firm does well. How can you be impactful in order for them, A, to like you, B, to trust you, C, to hire you? Those are the steps. Okay. There was a time, Steve, when I would go to this business person's, it was a dinner club sort of, and I went 7 years, once a month to this dinner. It took me 7 years to get a piece of business. It was a significant piece of business. But the key is that I didn't necessarily go there for the business, although that was on my mind. I liked the people. It was social. But the point I'm trying to make is that it doesn't always hit. It's not always a cause and effect. Sometimes it takes a long time. And I think what people really get disgruntled with is it's not a quick return on your investment. Okay. And that is difficult. And that is part of sales. Part of sales is getting, rejected, right? But what you have to do is you have to persevere. You have to be committed. You have to stay with it. I tell young lawyers at the firm all the time, don't get down on yourself because you didn't close the deal. You may not have closed the deal today, but ultimately you may close a deal in the future. And that's how you have to look at it. It's not always a quick return. And I think that's difficult for some people because you put a lot of time in, you put a lot of effort. And if you don't feel like you're going anywhere, it's demotivating.
Yeah.
Okay. It really is.
Yeah.
but you just
But
have to stay with it.
well, I think, but it's what I try to teach is activity done intelligently produces. So it's not so much about, me, did I close or did I not close? What I would want to know in debriefing with a client is what happened in that meeting that led it to the result of not closing. What was not asked? What was not said? What was not brought to the table? What you missed something. You missed a decision maker that was involved that you never asked about. You didn't ask about their money. You didn't ask about things. You didn't build a strong enough rapport, to your point earlier. Like there's a lot of factors that go into whether, someone will hire you or not. Are they meeting with 3 other firms? And so it's the not knowing and then wondering, did I get it? Why didn't I get it? Not knowing, that really, I think, eats away at most attorneys.
Yeah, and I think a lot of lawyers are not necessarily trained or that good at picking up on cues.
Yeah.
Okay, with respect to emotional intelligence. Okay, they're just not. It's not in our training. A lot of people aren't very good at it. But in every meeting that you're with, either virtual, in person, on the phone, you have to be able to pick up cues. Okay, because everyone sends messages. There'll be nonverbal messages, but if you're really concentrating and you're really into it and you're really having a substantive conversation, you will pick up these cues. And you make a very, very good point. A lot of lawyers don't know how to ask. Okay. And if you don't ask, you don't get. Okay. I learned that very early on.
But I think
remember
it's how
one
they,
time
the problem, John, is how they ask. I think that's the big
well, how they
concern.
ask as well.
Yeah. You have to have,
Yeah.
and you have to have, and my wife gives me credit for doing this all the time, which is, not necessarily just asking, but it's how you phrase something. It's how you word it and how you come across.
Right.
Maybe it's self-deprecating, or maybe it's, out of curiosity. It's not a demand. It's a question that, can get, that allows you to get insight, gain insight without being forceful. You're just kind of like, kind of wiggling your way through to get a question answered that could be important to whether this deal is going to close or whether, something, positive is going to come out of this or not.
One of my key secret sauces, okay, that I will tell the world because I care about our profession deeply. I care about lawyers being successful. That's why I'm doing this. That's why I'm going to be president of the bar, because I want to make the profession and us better. All of us. Life is about needs. It comes down to needs. And if you can identify the need of a potential client or a referral source, and you can fulfill that need, you are going to get what you want. It's that simple. Okay. And you have to analyze it from that perspective. What is this client or potential client? What do they need? What are they unhappy with? What are they disgruntled with their current counsel? Are they getting sued? Do they have a deal? Do they have a disgruntled employee? You have to find out what's the need, and then you can satisfy the need. And you have to understand and pick up on that. And that's really what I think, for the most part, it boils down to. I think the need for purposes of getting involved in bar associations and not-for-profit, charitable and organizations and community organizations is they usually have a need for something. If you can fulfill that need and also establish relationships, that to me is something that's going to really benefit you in your career. And it goes without saying, you have to first be a great lawyer. And that's the first 10 years.
That's really important point, John. You can't cut through that.
The first 10 years, you should be active at the bar associations, active in your community, establishing relationships. But my mentor used to say, you're not a lawyer until you're out 10 years. And I used to say, I don't believe that at all. But he's right. He was right. Because after 10 years, you got the game. Okay. For some people, it's a little earlier, depending on your background, but 10 years. Be a great lawyer first. That's what I tell all young people. My son's one of my 4 children is a lawyer. I tell all of them, be a great lawyer first, and then business development will come. Okay. And you have to keep building your resume, right? Build that resume. And because clients, especially in today's world and in any time, these are very significant matters to them, and they are not going to be able to trust you with a significant legal matter unless they believe that you're a really good lawyer. So
Yeah.
I tell all young lawyers, you need to focus on building your resume, your experience, your know-how. And that's why the first 10 years is to me is the keys to your career.
But here's the problem. So 10 years, a lawyer has been learning the craft, honing the craft, maybe incredible at the area of practice that they are focusing on. And they're loaded with work. Everything's going great there, but they're doing everyone else's work, right? Because that's how they came up. They were being given clients, they were being given matters on a regular basis, and they're in what I call the billable hour hamster wheel, and that's what they're doing. They're just grinding away, and that's great for everyone above them to get their stuff done by an expert, right? That their work's being done by someone who's really, really great at that. But how does the lawyer then break out of the 10-year gap and then start focusing on getting out and doing the business development when they're loaded up with all that work?
You've got to work really hard. And I suffered through the same thing. I was doing other people's work, but I still worked extremely hard, and I was out and active. And it's just a matter of, you've got to do the work that's on your plate because you don't have enough to keep yourself busy. And then you've got to go out and do what you necessarily can do. But in today's world, it's much easier because you have Zoom, you have technology, you're able to make significant touches to others, to build your practice, to create. To me, it's developing relationships, establishing relationships. And you have to, I used to work all the time. I would do all of the work that I was given, okay, because I had to bill my hours. And then I did other stuff. And when I started building my practice, I was able to sustain myself. And then I would be the leader of the team, and I wasn't working on other people's matters anymore, maybe to pitch a client or things like that. And that's another part of it. How do you pitch a client? How do you approach the client? And that's something, Steve, you do so well with your lawyer training. You help lawyers understand, because lawyers in and of themselves are not salespeople. That's not what we're trained to do. Okay. Some have the gene, most don't. And in order to understand, I was lucky. My father, the summer between 8th grade and my freshman year in high school, told me to go to the Chicago Public Library and read every book on sales. And I was like, I'm going to be a lawyer.
That's surprising.
I'm going to be a lawyer. I'm not going to be a salesman. And he said to me, everything you will do in your life, there will be a sales component. And so I did. I went to go read, I don't know how many books. And I also have been lucky enough throughout my career to take negotiation and leadership and dispute resolution courses, which have, refined those sales techniques. I'm also an arbitrator and a mediator, as well as a commercial litigator and a commercial transactional lawyer. I wish I would have taken those courses earlier in my career. I wound up taking them a little later in my career. I think here's a bucket list for everyone who's watching and listening. I went to the Harvard Law School course, executive course on leadership and negotiation. It was a bucket list thing I wanted to do my entire career. I did it 3 years ago. I wish I would have done it 5 years out. I'm encouraging my son, who's been a lawyer about 7 years, to go and do it now, because things that you learn in that course are invaluable, to allow you to not only be a good leader, but also to understand how business people look at things. The course had about 150 people in it. I thought it was going to be all lawyers. There were 4 lawyers. All the rest were business people. So what an insight I got and received into how business people look at things that are totally different than how we lawyers do it. Totally.
Yeah.
We went through a number of vignettes. I would be focusing on issue spotting. That's what lawyers do. They're looking at the big picture.
Yeah.
And so that unbelievably helped me understand that when I go pitch them for work and communicate with them, they're looking at it through a different lens than I'm looking at it as a lawyer. And I think when you're doing business development, you have to put a different hat on. I tell my people at the office all the time, you have to take off your lawyer hat, okay? And you have to put on your, I'll call it a sales, but it's really listening and picking up nonverbal cues and really understanding the client's situation and understanding the client's needs. If you learn anything from today, you have to learn, and I think you have to appreciate that life is about needs.
Yeah.
And if you can pick that up in a conversation, it's going to help you.
Well, I have a takeaway too that you mentioned, and I just want to go back for a second, and then we're going to wrap up with our game-changing book. So let me just share. When you went to the library in 8th grade and you read books on sales, and your father, bless him for putting that in front of you, what I'm taking away that lawyers aren't doing, and yes, you want to be a great lawyer, job one, I get it. But is there a reason why you're not someone that's in law that understands that client development is a huge part of control, freedom, advocacy, and the future for their financial freedom, to not be a student of sales, business development, marketing, time management, the things that are going to ultimately make you successful in your career beyond the knowledge of the law? And I think your father was very forward thinking. And most kids, I know my teenager would have rejected that outright just at the thought of it. But I just think that's such a powerful message that it's maybe never too early to start learning networking and relationships and nonverbal communication as a human being, let alone a lawyer. So I just want to kind of put that out there. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I can't agree with you more. I think those are the ingredients to success, to being independent. I always wanted to develop my own practice. That's what my mentor said. You never want to rely on somebody else to steer the boat.
Yeah.
You always want to build your own practice. You want to have your own following. You want to control your destiny. And so I was extremely driven to do that. Okay. That's just was my mindset. I wanted to do it. I felt I had the ability to do it. I had the willingness to want to do it. That's the first step. There's many lawyers out there that don't want to do it. It's uncomfortable. But what I always tell people, you can write articles. If you don't feel like you want a speech, or, writing articles is great. Participating in panels, doing seminars. I mean, there's so many things out there that you can do. And in today's world of, technology and virtual, platforms, you can do so much.
Yeah.
I believe that you've got to identify lawyers in any person, and you have to put them in a position to succeed. And you have to look at them and say, what are your strengths? You may be a great writer. You may be a great speaker. You may be somebody that enjoys doing one thing where other people want to do something else. You've got to identify their strengths, because one of my other maxims in his life is, I had a teacher that said to me years ago, whatever you do something that you're good at. because if you're good at it, you're going to like it and you're going to excel. Straight up, full disclosure, there's lots of lawyers out there that don't like what they do. And maybe they're not that great at it. So, I always say a legal education is a great thing. And sometimes, being a practicing lawyer isn't the thing. Maybe going into business or, going into education or different fields. I think the law school education is really second to none in terms of how to think and your thought processing. But do what you're good at.
Yeah. And
do what you're good at.
And do what you enjoy.
And you're going to enjoy it.
Yeah.
You're going to enjoy it.
If you hate practicing the law and that's what you do every day, that's you got one shot at this thing called life, and you don't want to, maybe it's just a matter of being in it. You want to try a different area of practice. You've got to look at, to your point, the
Absolutely.
options. Yeah. Hey, John, we got to wrap up though, man. The game-changing book that you sent me is What's Your Why? Is it Simon Sinek?
Yeah. I will tell you, Steve, that reading all of his books changed my life. I always felt that I had a purposeful goals in life, but Simon Sinek to me is one of the brilliant people of our world.
Mm-hmm.
He was able to break down for me that you have to know what your why is. You have to know what your purpose is. And once you figure that out, and by the way, you need to find out what the client's why is and what their purpose is and what their objectives are and what their goals are. It helped me to really understand and really be better at business development once I understood what my purpose was.
Yeah, really great.
I highly recommend his books.
Yeah, no, they're the best. They are. I agree. As we wrap up, John, of course, we've got our great sponsors, Get Staffed Up, Green Cardigan Marketing, and Lawmatics. Go back and listen to their commercials if you missed them or fast forwarded through them. How dare you, everybody. And John, thank you so much for coming back on the show. I mean, you have so much wisdom, so much wonderful knowledge that you were willing and able to share today that I just can't thank you enough. And I just think the world of you, and I'm just happy we're friends, and I'm excited for your CBA presidentship and all that. It's just all very exciting, man. Appreciate it.
Steve, such an honor to be with you, and I'm grateful and thankful for our friendship. I think what you do is amazing. You've helped so many, and keep it up because you're making a difference.
Well, I think we both have the same. Maybe that's one of the reasons why we get along so well, is because we both believe that the legal industry needs more support. They need more help. They need more guidance than maybe they've been given in the past. And I also, even though as I'm a non-lawyer, I care truly and deeply about the lawyers I work with and the lawyers I don't work with, the ones that I just want to help through my content and things I produce. So anyway, I think we make a great team. So I appreciate it.
Thank you, Steve. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. And
thank you, everyone.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody, for spending time with John and I today on the Be That Lawyer with Fretzin podcast. We're helping you every single week, twice a week, to be that lawyer, someone who's confident, organized, and a skilled rainmaker. Take care, everybody. Be safe, be well. We'll talk again very soon.